Ah, hey guys, welcome to T-Dubs. This is the show where we talk about things we watch, TWW. And usually this show is not about sports, usually it's about film, but we do love basketball a lot here in Honeycomb. And T-Dubs, the concept is just things we watch. So it can be stuff on Netflix or HBO or in the movie. You know, it's a post-game show for TV. But now we're going to do a post-game show for sports. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy this content, do click like on this video and keep watching, subscribe, because we're going to do as many post-game shows as we can. Hopefully get some guests in. I'd like to invite my friends who like to talk about basketball. Come on over and let's talk about some of these games here in Honeycomb. All right, so the FIBA World Cup is being hosted here in the Philippines. It's actually across the region. There are two other main arenas where the group stages are happening. I believe one is in Okinawa and the other is in Jakarta. And then we have two groups here in the Philippines, one in Cubao, which is my hometown in Quezon City. So we are from Cubao. And every day I actually drive from Cubao to here in Honeycomb, which is in Pasay, Double Dragon Plaza. And the main arena where all of the quarterfinals, elimination games, etc. are going to happen are 7 minutes walk from Honeycomb in the Mall of Asia Arena or MOA Arena. As a result, we're expecting to watch a lot of basketball. Me and the team, we've picked up tickets. Some of them were watching Gen Ad, some were watching, in slightly better seats. But we do already have our tickets for the semifinals and for at least one other Team USA game, which is Team USA versus Greece, which is on Monday. But yesterday, I had the wonderful opportunity of going to go watch Gilas Pilipinas in Philippine Arena, record-breaking crowd with 38,000 people in attendance. I'm going to put that on my resume from now on, co-record holder. And we got to go out there and attend the opening ceremonies, essentially, and the first game, the opening game of the Philippines versus the Dominican Republic. Now, these teams are both really great teams. Coaching was kind of an issue throughout this game, and we'll get to that later. But, very much this was a marquee lineup of Jordan Clarkson for the Philippines and Karl Anthony Towns for the Dominican Republic, both kind of like their hometown heroes for their respective nations, NBA stars, not quite superstars, but definitely stars. And boy, did they shine. Both of them scored high 20 points, with, of course, Karl Anthony Towns scoring most of those points, if you ask me, from a free throw line. He was basically playing bully ball, kind of like a budget Joel Embiid throughout the entire game. We were doing really well in the first half. Like second quarter, I was expecting a little bit less resistance from the Philippines, but it was close and it was pretty much tied throughout the entire game, first, second, third quarter. And then in the third quarter, for some reason, the coach decided to tighten up the rotation. We saw Kai Sot in the start of the game. He got 2 quick fouls, and that was it for Kai, for we don't know why. And then after that, we had Kiefer come out, and he brought a lot of fire to the game. I can't remember if he was in the starting lineup, but he definitely was acting kind of like a sixth man when Clarkson was kind of, running into a lot of obstacles, a lot of double teams, a lot of crowding. Kiefer came in and opened up the floor, and it allowed for everything to space out. The Philippines ended up losing this game by, I think, 6 points. But it was close all the way up until like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And I think one of the most frustrating things about this particular game was that it was totally winnable. We definitely could have won this game. Where were the problems? I'm not going to get into any of the politics. I actually don't know anything about the politics when it comes to Gilas and why certain players are in it and why the coach is the coach and not another coach. I just know that there are some politics. I don't understand them. I haven't bothered to figure out, to go through all of the gossip. But for me, I just know bad coaching when I see it. And Clarkson, when it got to the end of the game, really spiraled and, the game kind of degenerated when it got to the fourth quarter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think early on in the game, it was established that both teams were playing with very different offenses. The Dominican Republic was playing, even though they did have a superstar, they were playing with this multiple pick sweeping offense, which is very Euroball. Very, very much the FIBA game. Multiple picks, sweeping back and forth over the three-point line, get some good matchup, free up some three-point shooters, get the ball to them and shoot, or you see Karl Anthony Towns come bully ball down the lane. For the most part, that's what we're seeing. A lot of spreading the floor, a lot of very technical organized switching that was happening on the Dominican Republic side. And it's very reminiscent of the modern game, which is like what the Celtics play or what GSW plays, where you have these guys running about. Now, they don't have the shooters that GSW has, the Golden State Warriors. They don't have Steph Curry or Klay Thompson on their team. As a result, they actually suffered and didn't shoot very well from three. In fact, the Philippines had better field goal percentage and had better three-point percentage than the Dominican Republic did. So it's very strange that this would happen. Now, we did have a lot of turnovers on the Philippine team, and that resulted in fast break points and scoring that really shouldn't have happened. A lot of slippage, and we'll talk about the slippage a bit later on. But yeah, you had the Dominican Republic with this very organized switching or sweeping offense where the ball was moving a lot, players were moving a lot, and the Philippines, on the other hand, was playing a very different kind of offense where you had kind of this strongman point of attack offense where you saw a star take control of the ball, semi-ISO game, powering it through, and the game was being played through that star, whether it be a drive and then a kick or a drive and a dump off to a waiting center. Now, as for waiting centers, Edu really killed it. He played really well. Edu played really well. Ravenna played really well. We didn't get to see Kai. Kai did not play so well. He got 2 fouls right away. One of them was a little bit suspect. But overall, Gilas as a team was playing really well. Now, the problem was that when we got to the third, fourth quarter and rotations tightened, we just didn't see the guys who were playing well play anymore. And when Clarkson started to spiral and, the game started to devolve in that aspect, I think what we really got to see was Clarkson kind of hit a wall, started to get really frustrated. And we saw foul after foul. If I'm not mistaken, and I might be mistaken, I can't find a box score. Clarkson got like all 5 of his fouls in like a 10-minute stretch. And the coach just let him play. Just let him play through all of those fouls, and he was just spiraling. It was getting worse and worse. There is a video going around from Slam and from FIBA of Clarkson rubbing his face, but in the arena, they were, Clarkson was pissed off. He was punching the chair, swinging around the towel. A lot of frustration from both Clarkson and Kai Soto in that third to fourth quarter, not being able to play. And while all this is happening, the Dominican Republic just keep on getting that ball, sweeping round and round, open shooter, take the shot. Even the shot doesn't go in. Cat is there, gets a rebound, bully ball in the lane, free throws. And Cat, if I'm not mistaken, Cat missed no free throws. It must have been something like, of his 26 points, I think. Like half of them at least were from the free throw line. There was that one play in the second quarter where, was it early second quarter or late third quarter, where the Philippines basically played 23 seconds of defense. The ball ended up in Karl Anthony Towns' hands at the top of the arc. Very, very little time. And he just casually kind of tosses the ball up in the air very casually, and it goes in. And they score 3 points. So, that was, I think, a point of emphasis that really could have been brought to bear in that game. Now, again, when he got to the fourth quarter, one of the things that I think we're seeing a lot in this FIBA 40-minute, 10-minute quarter setup is a lot of full court man defense, and that really tires everyone out. So when you have a star who you're playing through, like Jordan Clarkson, that guy is going to get really tired, and his brain's going to get all muddled up by the end of the fourth quarter. And I think that's what we saw happen. And I think the problem really was that the Coach Chot, didn't recognize that or didn't do anything about it. He really should have come in and helped Jordan. And that's why you have players like Kiefer Ravenna, so that when things are getting sticky for your guy, you can bring in another guy. And it's really tough if that guy is coming in cold and with no rhythm because he hasn't played for the last 15 minutes. In a situation like that, everyone's tired. The systems aren't holding quite as well as they were in the beginning of the game. Things are less and less organized. Usually the team with the best clutch player will win, right? Because like when things are close, that clutch player is going to, turn on the energy and be the guy. And am I saying that Jordan Clarkson cannot be the guy? No, I'm not. All I'm saying is that he never had the opportunity to be the guy because he wasn't managed well enough to get to the end of the game. Now, on Clarkson's side, there were a couple of concerns. He was sliding all over the floor, dropping the ball a lot. Now, I did get to dribble one of those FIBA balls, and there are some areas on it where the FIBA print is that's really slippery. So I actually didn't end up buying that ball because it is slippery, and I think that might be one of the concerns that the players are facing. But we are also seeing a lot of complaints about slippery courts. Now, I don't know if the courts are all made in the same place. I would assume that all the courts are manufactured by one manufacturer and then shipped off to different locations, but I don't know if that's the case. The court in Okinawa appears to be really slippery. In fact, right before I recorded this, I was watching Brazil versus Iran, and Neto from Brazil just took a really bad slip. No one around him, no contact whatsoever. He just took a really bad slip, really scary, and you saw his teammates crying because it felt like it was over. Like he was very much a driving force in that game, and now we're seeing him potentially injured, definitely a game-ending injury. I don't know, maybe even a tournament-ending injury. So that is really sad to see. We saw Joe Ingles get bloodied up on his arm as well. And then during this game, we saw Clarkson really sliding around the court, his feet going 5-6 inches further than really it was supposed to go. So that is a concern as well. That led to a lot of turnovers, especially with the way that Clarkson plays. He's a very shifty player, moving around a lot, and it was great to see it in person. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we ended up losing this game, and we lost by not a lot. That was pretty heartbreaking. Another heartbreaking thing was being in the arena and seeing Philippine fans start to walk out with 3 minutes left in the game and only a 5-point deficit. Maybe they just couldn't see the light that we could rally and make it out. We actually got back within 2 points within those next 3 minutes. That was the point that Kiefer Ravenna came back into the game, and Clarkson had gotten his 5th foul. And we started to see people file out of the arena really early. Now, part of that is definitely their fear of the Philippine arena's traffic situation, which is globally notorious. Well, I'm glad to say it was not the case yesterday. We managed to get home or get back to BGC in about 50 minutes. That was not bad at all. But we started to see some of those Philippine Arena fans start filing out at the point that Clarkson got eliminated. And that was really sad for me to see because the Philippines, the team as a whole, were doing so well. And the other guys in the team, Kraken was killing it, Kiefer was killing it. And we started to see hope is probably the best thing that I would describe. Now, in terms of hope, we kind of need to win our next 2 games to move forward. And that's going to be a challenge for Gilas Pilipinas because that Italy team, what we saw yesterday is that they have a very organized system and they play a lot of that Euro ball FIFA game that we were talking about earlier, even more than the Dominican Republic was. So unless we can find a way through that, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a challenge. Angola, I'm not so worried about. We saw them play yesterday and they're okay. they're big and strong, but they're not stars is probably the best way I could describe it, right? They're very much at the same level as the Philippine team. So hopefully we can win that game and move on from the group stage. But having lost this first one, it's a little bleak, but we didn't lose it by a lot. So there is some hope if we find ourselves in a situation where there is a tiebreaker. For those of you who are watching, what that means is let's hope that the Dominican Republic blows one of these teams out. That's just how the tournament works. So we can hope for that. We can hope for 2 wins from the Philippines. Hopefully an upset for Italy at some point coming from us. That would be ideal. And then finally, some adjustment on the coach's side. I hear a lot of complaints about Coach Chot. I really don't know why that is. I don't know that much about Philippine basketball, but I do know, I think, enough about basketball to have an opinion, to have a decent opinion. And that's what I hope to share with you guys. This is not some expert analysis. I just want to be able to share my thoughts and air them out there because I have a lot of them. I have a lot of thoughts about everything. Now, let's talk about some of the other games. We got to see Canada blow out the French team, which is a shame. I was really rooting for the French team. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, they were number one in the power rankings, and we've seen that kind of slide to about 4 or 5. But I was not expecting a 30-point blowout. So hopefully we can see Rudy Gobert and Evan Fournier bounce back. What we need is a really strong shooting performance from Evan Fournier to see that happen. It was good to see Canada come out in full force. I think that SGA is probably the best player in the entire tournament, in my opinion. I think Anthony Edwards is really good, and he's definitely the best player on Team USA, but I don't think he's a better player than Shai. So that said, I think that's going to make for a really interesting tournament. Hopefully, if things go really well, we'll see those two teams in the finals. If things go really well, like crazy well, kind of scandalously well, then we'll see Gilas in the finals. But a lot would need to happen for that to become a reality. But who knows? Let's just all believe together. And then right now, I'm just going to end this video so I can go off and watch the first game of Team USA. And then in 2 days, we'll watch Team USA versus Greece live. If you are enjoying this content, do let me know. We're going to make it whatever the case, whether you enjoy it or not, because this is T-Dubs, it's things we watched, and we're watching basketball. It is the World Cup throughout this next 2 weeks here in the Philippines. So if you do enjoy this, like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. I'm at KO Kosha. I post a lot about basketball there. I post a lot about that on Twitter as well. But, you know, I'm kind of softening on Twitter these days. All right, I wish you guys good luck, good health. Go Team Philippines. Peace.